And so I hope, um, so today we'll talk about Town of Normal, a community realized, and an incubator for dreams and a place where you can thrive. And it's kind of walking you through a little bit about the Town of Normal, as well as getting to know me as a council member. So I will intertwine the two stories together, and hopefully we'll spend some time with a lot of questions and answers, because it's probably boring if I went through by detail a lot of the town stuff, but I think you can get more out of asking your burning questions. So today, what I'm going to cover a few things is who am I? Why am I here? The current state of, as we talk about the Town of Normal, the future state of at least what I hope for when it comes to the Town of Normal. And then I'll leave it open for your questions. I can't wait to get to that part. So I'm going to try to get through this so we can get to the questions. Who am I? I know Robin did a great job introducing me a little bit, and some of this was talked about. I have served 2 terms with the Town of Normal, which is, I'm coming to 8 years as of April 30th. It has been a joy and a pleasure of mine to serve. I've gotten to do so many things, and beyond just sitting on the dais and taking votes, I've gotten active in the National League of Cities, the Illinois Municipal League. I'm a part of Women in Municipal Government, the National Black Caucus of Local Elected Officials. I've sat on the Federal Advocacy Committee for Community and Economic Development, as well as University Communities Council, REAL, which is Racial Equity and Leadership, just to name a few. So it has definitely been a pleasure of mine to serve this community. I'm full-time at State Farm. I started here 11 years ago, actually, in State Farm Bank. And now I'm in the ET space, as we call it here. And I work as a technology analyst in that space. And I have enjoyed my time working for State Farm. I did graduate from Central State University with a degree in political science, initially starting with a degree in education, but my passion for people and ensuring civil rights, human rights, the belief that we can do more for our citizens and our residents, I changed my major to political science. I did not think I would be an elected official. I wanted to work in spaces where you didn't have to be elected, but you were hired. And despite what people may think, you do get, you were supposed to back then be hired for your qualifications, which includes education, expertise, as well as experience. I volunteer for a variety of organizations across the Bloomington, Normal, McLean County area. It includes Junior Achievement, Home Sweet Home Ministries, Midwest Food Bank, State Farm, STEM program. Those are just to name a few. Children's Discovery Museum, and I have sat on several boards. And I'm currently running for office. So, you know, it never ends in this space. You continue to grow and evolve. Here's just some of my favorite pictures out there, and of some very important moments. The one to the top left is when I was signing my documents after winning a second term to council during, you know, just after, or I won't say after COVID, but kind of during COVID, and a great time, I guess, in a sense, and not the way you would think, but what was great about it is how we pulled together as a community to maintain a lot of things that are good about our community, where a lot of other communities really struggled. The top right picture is one of my council colleagues and I exchanging a conversation. The one below it is my very first election, winning it in 2017. And in the bottom there, at the heart of who I am, I do a lot of grassroots work. So you see me doing grassroots work in that bottom left corner. In the bottom right corner, I'm a part of also Illinois Women's Institute for Leadership, other women who do a variety of jobs within the political government spectrum, everything from labor to lobbyists to counsel for not only the municipalities, but other nonprofit organizations. Even we have some state representatives here. So this is an amazing group of women, and this is only a few of us. There's a lot of us from everywhere from Chicago all the way down to Cairo, who are part of this program overall. And then that's little old me with all the dreams and hopes of the future down at the bottom. So you got to know a little bit about that, but why am I here in my story? I call it my normal story. It is a play on the word, as well as the town. I moved here 13 years ago, interestingly enough. But it was a community I ended up falling in love with. I did not think I would be here as long as I've been here. I've always gotten involved in every community I've ever lived in. I used to call myself a nomad, but I think I found home. I always say when you find home, you'll know it. And I believe that this is where this place is. And there's so many great things about it. When I first got here, I got involved with Habitat for Humanity's Women Build, and it allowed me to see the sense of community that is very present here, as well as having places like that where I felt welcome to volunteer. In the process, there's a lot that I've learned in my journey for being here. And a lot of it comes through my experiences with the town of Normal. And if you haven't noticed, a lot of the photos I have are actually photos of Normal. And this is one of my favorite places. It's the Constitution Trail. Learning how much this stands beyond the town of Normal, as well as while we are one of the most highly looked at trails to replicate in the country. So people actually come here and study our Constitution Trail for a variety of reasons to duplicate what we have. While it just seems like a casual amenity to most, this is to me one of our crown jewels. As being a council member is one of the things that I brag about, and oftentimes expose family and friends who are visiting to this space. And somehow we've gotten enlarged. Let's see. All right. How all of this happens, how do we have our beautiful uptown? How do we have such a beautiful Constitution Trail? All begins with some standard information. And I call this the standard. This is like the floor of the information that you can learn about the town. Because there's so much here, there's so much history, there's so much to the nuances, but I'm sure you don't, you probably are more into the nuances. Why? Just because right now the environment leaves you with wanting to know so much about the nuances. So hopefully you've gotten your questions and have some really good ones so I can get down to those. But some of the framework to understand is we are a council manager form of government, which means that the council and city manager are kind of collectively at the head of the helm. Council overall is led by the mayor, but collectively are still seen as a council. We do not dive into the day-to-day operations. We only manage one employee, and that is the city manager. So basically, we're like a board of directors who has the CEO, which is the city manager, reporting to us. While we review and approve the budget, we are not the ones who put the budget together, which is under a different form of government, but than ours. We actually have council and city manager form of government. So staff, city manager pulls it together, we review and then approve. There's some other things that are different about the council manager form of government versus some other ones, like either they'll refer to it as a strong mayor form or they'll call it mayor council form of government. There's also a trustee form of government where the trustees run it. And there's one more, and different states call it different things, but basically where truly the people, and we can talk about that too if you have questions, but truly the citizens of the community run everything. And it's a little different. Typically, you'll see those in your really small, very rural areas where you might have 50 citizens. So, what we would call a mayor would probably be more of their leader, if you will. that they kind of appoint to navigate the things that they need to for their community. But again, you will not see that in your standard operating community. They're typically in those very small, very rural areas. The town of Normal has 884 employees, and out of those, 370 are full-time. Everyone else is part-time or seasonal. Seasonal is more of parks and rec, including the parks and aquatics areas. We have 15 departments total, 15 department heads that we kind of oversee, if you will, or make sure has what they need. We have a $96 million budget for fiscal year 25-26. That number does change based off of the fiscal year. And so we've just recently approved the upcoming fiscal year, or at least putting together, I should say, the fiscal year budget. And there'll be one more final approval, I believe, closer to March before the new fiscal year comes, which is April 1st. So we don't follow a calendar year, we follow a fiscal year, which is April 1st to March 31st. One thing that I love about the town of Normal, and this is quoted by our current mayor, Chris Coos, we plan our work and we work our plan. And if anybody else in here is a political scientist, that is standard across political sciences, which you will learn, especially if you learn about municipal government, is that you do put a plan together and you work on your plan. And how we do that is through these 4 plans that we utilize. We use a comprehensive plan, which is our current one looks out to 2040. And then we have a sustainability plan, which was recently towards the end of 2024, reviewed, updated, and voted upon. We recently went through our strategic plan as well as our CIP, or community investment plan. You can find all of these on our website. It is public information. And the great thing about the community investment plan is it's very interactive. You can dive into it and find out specific projects that are being worked on, the cost. You can get a little bit of information about the project that's being worked on within the town of Normal. So we offer a lot of information to our residents. So hopefully they will use that to stay engaged. Excuse me. Speaking of engagement, why is municipal government engagement important? Why is citizens knowledge along with engagement important? And I always share this because I think a lot of people, we always get wrapped in federal government. You get a little less people, but still some involved in state government. But very few people get involved with municipal government. It is so hard for us to find people who want to engage and be a part of boards and commissions, just being engaged in some of the activities we have, and don't know why. But here is why you should be involved and engaged with your municipal government. It helps you better understand municipal operations, helps you better understand the collective vision for the community. It allows you to support maintaining good posture and positioning. And a lot of that is around how we are viewed as a community, as well as our ratings for our community. You can help support positive change, because not all change is bad or negative. So definitely be a person who can support the change, who can proactively and positively engage with your municipal government. While everything may not be agreed upon, there should be positive engagement even when there is a disagreement. And then serve as a better advocate and ambassador. And I will tell you, I always have this belief, if I can't be an advocate and an ambassador for my community, I am living in the wrong place. I don't live in a place just to live in it. I live in a place to be a part of it. And so I encourage people to not just live in a place to live in a place, but live in a place that you feel like you can be a part of. You can be an advocate and an ambassador for. Here are more pictures from the town of Normal, beautiful pictures at different events in our uptown area. But what is the future state of Town of Normal? And our future is bright. Now, I'm going to tell you this from a very personal view more than anything else. And I think somebody zoomed in on the Color Festival, Diwali. How we determine our future state is through our comprehensive plan. And we have 7 metrics that we utilize overall. Personally, I feel like we have dived into a few, not as much as we could have. And we do have this for 2040. Uh-oh. What's happening? For 2040. So with that being said, I think it's important that I share where do we get our ideas when we have conversations, when we're having thoughts about what we want to do in the future. I think it's good for citizens to know we look at these 7 metrics. So housing, economic vitality, health and sustainability. Uh-oh. Is someone else in the presentation? Health and sustainability, infrastructure and public safety, humanitarian and social aspects, Town and Gown. And if you don't know, Town and Gown is related to our relationship to ISU as well as Heartland Community College. So when you have a university in your community, like Town of Normal, we actually engage in a national organization called Town and Gown in order to learn how to build better relationships with our universities and colleges, and how we can both receive benefits from those relationships. And then last but not least, the one thing a lot of people don't understand, we do look at community identity in public places, meaning the things that people feel are just amenities that are just there. We look at those because it's a part of what you call community development. And community development is very important to any community. Despite what you may think a little bit, the realities of what determines a lot of times why people move where they move, the highest thing that always rises to the top are things that are related to community development. So what are some of the visionary thoughts for what's coming ahead? And these are some things that I believe in, and I do honestly believe that the town will engage in some way, shape, form, or fashion with this within the years to come. But I know for me, these are things that stick out that I feel like we need to address in the immediate. Technology, as technology is changing, our town needs to change as it will help with how we provide services to the community. Housing, there is a housing crisis across the country. And so how do we as a community look at what those issues are for us locally? What is available to us to be able to help with the housing crisis and reduce issues within the housing crisis? Because there's a variety of issues. There's not just one. Housing stock is a part of it. Housing the unhoused is another part of it. There's so many layers to it. So we have to have an honest conversation and even possibly somewhat of an uncomfortable one. Reimagining cultural diversity, it goes beyond race or ethnicity. We have to talk about ageisms and religion. All these things are part of the community and can have an impact. I'm not sure if somebody's able to dive into here, but if everybody could just not touch their screen, would be great. Intentional community engagement. Again, I feel like that's something we need to do better, and definitely get people to want to be engaged and engage with us and be proactive about it and not necessarily reactive. Vibrant community development. Again, that's something that makes one community different than another, more than just taxes or the size or public transportation is a part of community development. So there are things like the amenities that are part of community development, which allows people to make a difference, a choice on where they want to be. Economic development, I always call it the crown jewel of a community, because without healthy economic development, a community is not able to flourish as much as they possibly could. So economic development is very vital, as well as also offering not only monies for the community to receive, but also from the standpoint of having a healthy workforce. And I'm not sure who keeps taking over the screen. But now I can't. All right. Well, I was just going to go through lastly. We want to make sure Normal thrives as a community. And then I did talk about what that definition, according to Merriam-Webster's Dictionary of Thrive: vigorous growth, development, doing it so that we prosper. And so that's the thing as a community. And prospering is more than just money. Prospering is the richness in traditions and culture and history that we're able to provide as we grow and evolve. All right. Yep, I see well, I see myself now. Hopefully everyone is still here. I didn't put anyone to sleep. That's the part I hate, because I hate doing all the talking. But now I believe I can open it up for questions, make sure I'm not out of line to now open it up for questions.
Hi, Kimberly. It looks like there's a question in the chat here. What technology initiatives is the town looking at to make the town efficient and save some money?
Sure.
I think you're accidentally muted there for a second.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can definitely hear you now.
All right, good. So the town recently is working to continue to grow in the space with our tool that we're using to put out our CIP information. We're also looking to update a variety of things. Already we have a system that we utilize where we're tracking our projects and our goals. I will say it's a homegrown tool. If you are a State Farm, you would be frustrated with it. And we have asked them to look into the cost of what it would be to use some of the better tools. I will say a lot of the better tools are geared towards private industry. So it's not within the price range a lot of municipalities can even afford. So that's an issue. And so there's some additional conversation that has to be had at both state and federal level to see either can they help us financially cover some of those costs, or look at what our other options can be. There's usually a lot of those pricing groups that we become where we come collectively and say, hey, we're looking to bid out, say, health insurance or something like that. and we're able to get a lower cost when we do that. So there's a variety of things we can look down or look at down the road. However, those are there, as well as improving our payment system. That's another thing, how we utilize our data to make sure that it's talking across the enterprise, or excuse me, the organization. So there's some things that we're continuing to grow in, and we're not really doing cloud yet. We're not doing AI yet, with all the also concerns of security. So
Yeah. I guess another question that came in was, what are some easy ways that someone can get involved with their municipality? We have some volunteering kind of people in this group, and they would like to know how they can step in and do something.
absolutely. I will tell you one of the top things is join a board or commission. On the Town of Normal website, we do have applications for how you can sign up for a board or commission. Tell us what your interests are. We try to make sure that those align with, what you're thinking. As we put out information for volunteer opportunities, at least, I say once a quarter at least, come to a council meeting. Those things are just to know what's going on. What are we talking about? What are some of the things that are happening in your community that you may not have known otherwise? So those are some top things right off that you can do to engage with your community.
Another question is what is on the horizon to help with the shortage of housing?
Ooh, so I'm going to tell you some direct stuff that is known from the town of Normal, and then there's some things that I'm going to share that it's public knowledge, but it's not from just the town of Normal perspective. I'll start actually at the higher level. So, like I said before, I'm part of the National League of Cities Federal Advocacy for Community and Economic Development. We have been working on a housing initiative actually since 2018. Initially, we asked for a housing to be included in the infrastructure bill. However, the political climate asked that we remove that ask out of the bill before it would even be considered from committee to go to the Congress floor, to the House floor, which we did, and we got a infrastructure bill passed, but we still ended up with issues with housing. So what we are now doing is going back to Congress to say, hey, we have to have something as it relates to housing. And so we're asking that they include housing back into the infrastructure bill. What that will do is allow for communities who get access to infrastructure dollars to utilize them for infrastructure towards housing projects. The reason that is because it's hard to build housing at a price point that your average working American can pay, when the cost of supplies and the interest rates make it hard for a developer to get an ROI on charging at that median level, if you will, and still try to make a profit. So in order for their numbers to work, if the communities are able to do something as simple as provide, because some communities don't even have the infrastructure already prepared to build houses. We are in a little bit better place, except for like the northwest area of Normal, in which we are starting to work on. But we do have a lot of our infrastructure, but it would also include roads, right of ways, and things of that nature. So that's at a higher level, again, and it will allow communities to offer better incentive plans, which is something we are working to do. We are looking at areas where we can create TIFs, but it includes housing developments, which we haven't done. That will put a new tool in our toolkit. We are building a toolkit. Every community is different. Some people are going with a standardized, while it's not recommended that you do a standardized incentive plan for housing development, they do ask that you have a toolkit of what you can provide. And the reason why they don't recommend standardizing it, because each project needs something different to make their numbers work. The other thing is taking how you look at your current housing stock. And so that's what we're also doing. The interesting thing about Normal that differs from Bloomington, we do not have nearly as many underdeveloped or undeveloped space. And what I mean by undeveloped, areas that hasn't been bought, or a plat has at least once been presented to council. So despite what people may think, while you see a lot of empty land, either it's already purchased and platted, And so we can't really do much with that versus having land that has nothing out there on record for it. So those are even things that hopefully that you learned that you didn't know before. That'll be helpful.
Yeah, no, that's really great information, kind of helping people to understand. Housing is obviously a massively complex problem across the country, and affordable housing for sure is definitely one of those things that I know town at the municipal level people really have to grapple with in the role that you do. So the Randy has a question here, and this is an interesting one. What do you feel like makes the biggest difference when somebody's running for like council or mayor, or like those person getting elected or not? Often, he's like candidates feel like they're saying the same thing, maybe, but it's really difficult to choose when you're talking about local government roles. And just there's a good question there for you.
I will tell you, since I am running, I do have mentors. So if you work at State Farm is big on mentorship. I just have understood, and I think part of being at State Farm, the importance of mentorship. So I have mentors that are related to my State Farm work, and I have mentors outside of State Farm. Matter of fact, the one of my mentors is the mayor of Tacoma, Washington, Valor Woodards is her last name. Victoria Woodards, Mayor Victoria Woodards, I should say. And, one of the things she said to me as reflective in running for an office is, do you have a vision? Whether you vote the same or similarly, or you have some of the same values, everybody does not have the same vision for their community. Some people don't really truly can even articulate what their vision forward. And it's very critical. Again, in times like this, we need to have a vision for our technology instead of just waiting and seeing and being reactive. I'm somebody who believes in proactive work. So that makes a difference in how I vision things. So I think that's one of the things. And community engagement. Some people are more engaged than others. So for me, I always say, look at people's engagement. What is their commitment? Because some people will be fully committed and some people will half-heartedly be committed. And people who are fully committed, whether you agree with them or not, you have to know that the decisions that they're making are coming from a good place. Sometimes it is because they have a little bit more information than your typical resident. Sometimes they're trying to think of what's the best solution for a larger group of people versus just a few. So I think hopefully those are some tips that can help you make some decisions when it comes to municipal government.
All right. Okay, got a good question here from Melba. And again, everybody, please don't hesitate. Just if you'd like to ask a question yourself and not just type it in the chat for Kimberly, just you can raise your hand in the system utilizing the Zoom tools, and feel free to unmute and have a conversation here. There's not very often you get to sit down and have a conversation with the city councilor. So feel free to ask those questions yourself. I'm trying to roll up here. This one's a tough one though. How has or even has the town of Normal been impacted by the funding freeze on federal grants?
So right now there's not an impact. Doesn't mean it won't. And there's some things that's kind of holding up that freeze. So as of now, what we know is what monies we are supposed to get, we'll get. One of the things that is a part of that is our CDBG money, which is the oh gosh, I always forget what the C and the D is, but it's our block grant through HUD. We use a lot of that money locally to fund a lot of our road projects. So if we don't get those funds, we would have to then take a look at what road funds we might, what road projects we may have to cut. We will try not to do that, but that's the reality. As well as we were doing updates and ADA compliances with our sidewalks, utilizing that money. So if we don't get it, then those projects will be at a halt. Some of it depends on how deep the freeze actually goes. The town of Normal does have some grants that we had applied for and were kind of awarded, and it's hard to explain how those grants take place. But because it's also this war of if we haven't officially spent them, but we have allocated the dollars and the federal government is aware of the allocation, will we get a rollback? And that can happen also with a freeze where they'll roll back the grant monies or unspent grant, or what they would consider unspent. So then also they get to determine how they will identify unspent dollars. So that becomes very interesting in the process as well.
Yeah.
But as of now, because there hasn't been any detailed information about it, or we have not gotten word that all of that is going to play out in that way in this moment, we just kind of have to sit back and see where we go. More to come for sure.
Definitely. Somebody, Mike here has a question. Is there sufficient revenue generated by the parking garages, parking tickets in Uptown Normal to offset the cost of parking enforcement?
Good question. Despite what people think, because we don't charge a lot, not really. We get just enough most of the times in order to do repairs and maintain those. We have to, that's why it's part of the general fund, because and not one of like how the water, you pay for water, that money goes into the water fund to take care of more maintenance down the road. We just don't make that kind of money to fully be able to take care of the parking garages that we have. So it does come out of additional monies from the general to maintain those.
Right. Craig has a question about what's been the percent increase in debt owed by the town of Normal in the past 10 years, and what are the plans that the town has to try to reduce that amount?
Sure. I'll be honest, I don't know the percentage offhand, and I'll tell you part of why I don't. Because it's kind of gone up and down because we also have paid off quite a bit of debt as well. We do have a debt reduction plan, and we are operating within that debt reduction plan. Part of what has to happen is some of those bonds have to be called in order for us to pay them off. We don't have any right now that'll be called. I believe our next bond or set of bonds that'll be ready to be called will be within 2 or 3 years. We are already within a plan to get those paid off when they become callable. So again, one of the things I said earlier, we plan our work and we work our plan.
Yeah. All right. Somebody wants to know something about this high-speed rail that's coming in, and there's a Amtrak announcing the contract with Alstom. Is there will there be high-speed trains rolling through Normal at some point?
So, this has actually been in the works for probably about as long as I've been on council. We signed our initial contracts way back then, but there's been so many issues. One of them being as to why we are building the underpass in Uptown. Certain things had to be in place before it could be finalized, and not just in Normal. So there's other areas along the route that had certain things that had to be addressed before the high-speed rail could be put into place. A lot of it is dealing with pedestrian crossing, ensuring that pedestrian crossing would be safe for the residents. Again, not just here, but there were several locations along the high-speed trail where they've had to make updates in order to make it happen. So more, I mean, I don't want to say more to come, but we're trying to monitor and see when those will take place. I know for us, we're in the process of trying to get the underpass completed or connector space, if you will, completed. And then more conversations to come even post that, because we will have our piece done, but not sure if the other communities who had things that needed to be completed have their stuff done as well.
Well, I'm gonna pop out and try to turn it over, I guess. Robin, is there anything else, or does anybody else have questions and want to ask Kimberly a question here?
Last call for questions for Kimberly. You have certainly done awesome, and we definitely appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to come talk to us.
Well, I appreciate being here, and I love to share if you have something. I believe I was trying to show the last screen because it will also have my email information so that you can reach me. And it's pretty simple. My town email address is charris@normal, NORMALIL.gov. Again, that's charris@normalil.gov. If you think of something, reach out to me. And if you are a normal citizen in need of anything, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
Again, thank you very much for taking the time. Again, reach out to Kimberly at that email address for any questions that may come up afterwards. Just a quick reminder about upcoming events in April. I didn't have these dates earlier, but Heather certainly provided them. The Spring Symposium on April 15th and 16th. And a super fun event right before the symposium is a student networking mixer and educational event that'll be held over at ISU. If you're looking for information on that, coming out shortly. Next meeting is March 17th with our annual ethics meeting. Invites should be in the very near future. So again, thank you for your time today, and we'll see you all next month.